Welcome back. We're jumping right into this explainer for Kalinima Session 13. And let me tell you, this is where the frantic relief of survival just morphs into this incredibly elegant, creeping dread. Today we're looking at a massive turning point in the campaign. We're stepping away from physical rot and diving headfirst into the psychological tension of secrets and searing revelations.
Seriously, what do you do when the dread arrives, beautifully dressed? I absolutely love this question. It so perfectly captures that terrifying tonal shift our heroes experience by the end of this journey. We're going from fighting for their literal lives in filthy, disgusting caves to facing a threat that has, well, impeccable manners. But to really appreciate the weight of that carriage pulling up, we gotta look at how desperately this whole session begins.
So before the carriage even shows up, we start right outside the walls of Scheideweg at dusk. And the situation? It is dire. 3 of our 4 heroes, Heron, Jace, and Dimitri, are infected with the weeping pox. It's this magically created disease with a literal ticking clock, counting down to tumors or, honestly, much worse. Now they're sitting on vital intelligence about a Fotum Asu sewer plot, but they absolutely cannot trust the city's compromised official channels. Remember, they have correspondents naming Elder Finian Lightfoot, a super beloved local figure, as a suspect contact. So simply walking up to the keep or the temple, that could expose their intel to the exact same people plotting the city's downfall.
This is where Oren completely takes charge of the logistics. He totally bypasses Elder Lightfoot and the Thane to run a covert op with their trusted contact Suzbert. And honestly, it's a masterclass in quiet efficiency. While the rest of the sick party is just waiting outside the walls, Oren sneaks in. And Suzbert, she doesn't just listen, she acts. She procures 3 potions of greater restoration from a hidden private stockpile and immediately mobilizes her own underground teams to handle the sewer threat, all based on Oren's intel about the infection vectors. They basically solve their most pressing problems in one swift move, and in the process reveal that Suzbert commands a much larger network than the party ever realized.
The sheer, overwhelming relief of downing those potions is probably best summed up by Heron's brilliant, incredibly pragmatic observation. She's not waiting around to see if tumors could be turned into necklaces. Boom. As the weeping pox is finally cured, the headache lifts, the fever fades, and that immediate, heavy dread of the disease is just gone. Heron simply downs the potion and moves on. We're talking 3 sessions of a terrifying ticking clock, totally resolved in a single moment, finally allowing the party to catch their breath.
Which brings us to a day in Scheideweg, lore drops, and letters from home. With the immediate physical threat neutralized, the party finally gets a day in town to just gather themselves, which leads us to some massive and honestly unsettling revelations. Heron identifies some powerful new gear, including those boots of the Charger, and checks in on Alma, a priest who, if you recall, remains deaf and mute after a divine punishment. But the real heavy hitters of this day, they come from the research library and the post office.
So Jace hits up the Shield and Quill library and uncovers something pretty awful. The terrifying filth grazer. Yeah, the entity they saw carved in the Kobold Cave and on the Skinweaver's tapestries isn't a monster you can just hit with a sword. It's practically an unkillable curse. Born from the corpse of a devoured god, this thing doesn't cause calamity. It marks the ground where calamity has already taken root. It literally cannot be killed. It can only be ignored at your own increasing peril.
Now, what's genuinely fascinating about these terrifying omens is how they force us to look back at everything Fulton Oss has touched with a totally fresh sense of horror. Think about it. Children drawing a hunched figure unprompted, clergy going mute. Remember Alma? It really makes you wonder, right? If the filth grazer appears wherever rot accumulates, and Fulton Oss keeps operating near it, are they cultivating this entity on purpose, or is it just a nasty symptom of their deep structural corruption? This looming sense of doom even bleeds into the party's quiet personal moments, like when Heron gets a letter from her sister Cassell with this deeply ominous detail about gathering moths. It sits in such stark contrast to the warm, everyday letters from her husband Maslov talking about fixing the roof and her daughter Sella joining the choir. It's a beautiful, grounding reminder of the normal world Heron is out here trying to protect, but it's heavily shadowed by that omen. The darkness is literally echoing into their homes.
The party then spends 4 deceptively peaceful days traveling north on these really well-maintained roads. It's a calm journey that sharply contrasts all that dark lore they just uncovered. And honestly, it's incredibly humanizing. You've got Oren spending his evenings stubbornly trying to whittle a dragon head figurine that completely resists his skills. You got Jace trying to get the horrors of the filth grazer out of his head by sketching the omens in his journal. Even a passing thunderstorm leaves them untouched. It's this deep, deep breath before the plunge.
And that plunge takes us to Garin Hollow, the polite threat. Arriving in this town, the party discovers a place that just feels a bit too perfect. You know the vibe. It's smaller than they expected, but surprisingly, it's completely walled off. Whoever built this place clearly anticipated threats, and yet the current atmosphere is just aggressively peaceful.
Just look at the contrast here. We are officially trading the messy, visceral danger they just survived for the immaculate, chilling perfection they find in the Sinclair family's domain. We're swapping the chaos of infected gore bags for a threat that operates behind clean ledgers and exceptional hospitality. And our party knows from their clashes with Photum Authus that the absolute most dangerous kind of corruption is usually the kind clothed in genuine prosperity.
Over at the Spoiled Goblet Inn, the party runs into all these sensory details that are polite and accommodating on the surface, but deeply, deeply suspicious underneath. The locals are practically raving about the Sinclair family. Sustainable lumber, year-end bonuses, 20 years without a single monster attack. The innkeeper, this taciturn guy named Quiet, even serves Shinneron off-menu Schwesterfeld beef straight from her homeland. Jace checks the inn's ledger and finds it perfectly, flawlessly clean. But here's the catch. The guard at the estate gate casually mentioned another adventuring party visited a week and a half ago. So, where are they? A perfectly clean ledger doesn't always mean nothing is wrong, right? Sometimes it just means the wrong has been perfectly erased.
And then the creeping dread finally arrives the next morning. Not with fangs, not with claws, but with impeccable manners and a formal dinner invitation to the Sinclair estate. The rain is falling as this gorgeous white and gold carriage drawn by 2 white mares pulls right up. A tall man in a crisp black suit steps out and hands the party a sealed envelope. It is a stunning, silent display of quiet power and immense wealth. They aren't being ambushed, they are being cordially invited.
So the crucial point we're left with as we wrap up this explainer is a question that completely redefines the stakes for Session 14. It leaves us wondering, what exactly is the Sinclair family hiding? Are the Sinclairs agents of Photomachius? Are they targets, or are they something else entirely? We started this journey with our heroes sick, terrified, and hiding in the shadows outside a city wall. We end with them healthy, well-fed, and holding an elegant envelope that somehow feels heavier than any weapon they carry. The filth grazer feeds on secrets, guys, and walking into that estate, you really have to wonder what exactly is waiting for them at the dinner table.